So hi there everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make these granny stitch Christmas trees. So I tend to use mine to make a nice garland with, or if you add a nice bit of yarn there and perhaps a nice Christmassy button. Now I know you can get some stars that are buttons. You could put those on the top, and then that nice hangy bit there, you could use these as Christmas decorations or maybe tags to decorate your parcels. You can make them in all sorts of colours, even blue. You can make them in various thicknesses to get various sizes. Now I'm making mine up in a DK weight yarn. I'm using Starcraft Special DK in Meadow. And for that I'm going to be using my 4mm or size G Clover and More hook. I'm also going to need a pair of scissors and a darning needle to sew in my ends. Now also, just before we start, I do block mine at the end. This is just to help them keep their shape nicely. So it would be useful if you just had a few pins as well. Maybe have some starch. If you don't have any starch, you can just spray them with water. I will show you how I block these at the end of this video. So let's get going. So we're going to start by putting a slip knot on our hook. You can do this however you normally do, but this is just how I do mine. So I wrap my yarn around, go across, then I go under with my hook, grab that yarn, pull it through, take out my fingers, and there we go. So we are going to start by chaining 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is very similar to if you have done my granny square, you're going to get this quite easily. So we are going to join, make this our center. So in that chain, the farthest from your hook, you're just going to push through, grab that yarn, pull it through, and the one that's on your hook, and you are going to make our center circle. Okay, so I'm just going to start by doing a chain up of 3, and that's going to count as 1 treble. As I go round, I am going to work over my end here. Okay, so we're going to put another treble into that center hole there. Okay, so if you're in the US, this is 1 double. So it's yarn over first, push through that center, grab the yarn, pull through, so I've got 3, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. So that's, I've got in effect 1, 2 trebles. So I'm going to put another treble, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2, and like the granny square, this is now a cluster. Okay, so I need to make my first corner, which the same as my granny square, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to do another cluster through this center. So I want you to do a cluster of 3 trebles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. you can just shuffle them around that center hole just to make them nice and neat. So now we need to do another corner. So we're going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2 and 3. And then we're going to put, for this round, our final cluster of 3 trebles through that center. 1, 2, oops, need more yarn, and 3. So we have our 3 clusters for round 1, but we still need to do our final corner. So we need to do another chain of 3. And then we're going to join this first round. So if you remember, we did a chain up, 1, 2, 3 to start with. We are going to join by doing a slip stitch in the top of that stitch there. So you grab the yarn, pull through, and the one that's on your hook, and we have joined. Now to get to round 2, we need to go over to this corner here. So we're going to slip stitch in the top of these 2 stitches here. So just a simple slip stitch, go through the top of that stitch, pull through, and the one that's on your hook, and the next one as well. And then we're also going to slip stitch into that corner. Okay, and now we're ready to start round 2. So we're going to start with a chain, 3 up, and that again is going to count as 1 treble. Again, that's 1 double if you use US terminology. And then we're just going to make this cluster by doing another 2 trebles in that space. There we go. Then we need to make a corner. So that's going to be a chain of 3. And then in this same corner, we're going to do another cluster of 3 trebles. There we go. It's so similar to the granny square. Now we're going to hop across to this one here, but as we're going along the side, we're going to do just a chain of 1. That just helps us go along, otherwise our work will become a little bit bunched up. Now in this corner here, we're going to do a cluster of 3. We're going to do a corner, which is a chain of 3, and then another cluster of 3. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Chain of 3 for our corner, and then another cluster of 3. 2 and 3. Now we're going to hop over this one. Now as we're going along again, we need to do our chain 1 first. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do this corner. It's a cluster of 3, chain 3, cluster of 3, and I will meet you here. So I'm just coming around to finish this round 2. Now before I join, I just need to remember we need to do a chain 1 as we're going along the side. And then I'm going to join as we did before at the top of this original chain up of 3. So just do a slip stitch in the top there. And again, we need to get over to this left hand corner. So I'm going to slip stitch at the top of this stitch to the left and this one here. Okay, and then finally we are going to slip stitch into that top left hand corner, and we have finished our round 2. Now round 3 is going to start exactly the same with chain 3 up, and then we're going to do another two trebles to make that first cluster, chain of 3 to go around the corner, and another cluster of 3 trebles. You're getting the hang of this now. So this time, as we go along the side, we've just got this space here to work into. So we're going to do our chain 1 and then just 1 cluster of 3 trebles in this space. 2 and 3. Now remember, we're still going along, so we need to do a chain 1, and then we're going to put a corner in this space here. So it's a cluster of 3, and 3, and then you just need to cinch them down. A corner of 3 chains, and then as we're in the corner, another cluster of 3. Okay, so this is how it goes all the way around. Okay, my yarn's getting hooked up, excuse me. So we've done this corner here. We need to go along. So remember, you need to do a chain 1. And then in this space here, you just do 1 cluster of 3, a chain 1, and then you're going to work your corner, and then I'm going to meet you after this corner here. So I've done my final corner, and then we're going to go along this edge here. So I do a chain 1, then I'm going to do another cluster of 3 in this side space here, and 3, and then I'm going to join as before, but I need to make sure I do my chain 1, and then I'm going to join in the top of that original chain 3 up. Okay, now that is the granny stitch part of the tree. Now what I suggest you do now, just take your hook out for a moment, just use the heat from your hand just to flatten that triangle out nicely. Okay, now as I said before, we are going to pin these out and block these afterwards, but as we're making them, they do tend to curl up, so sometimes you get the shape a little bit confused, but just using the heat of your hands should sort of like help that keep its shape whilst we're working on it. I'm just going to put my hook back in. Okay, and we are going to start just a nice thin border. Now I'm going to be using UK double crochet. If you use US terminology, this will be single crochet. Okay, so this is how we start. So where we did our original, where we did our slip stitch, all we're going to do now is in that same stitch, just do 1 double crochet. So just push your hook through, grab the yarn, pull it through, so you have 2, grab the yarn, pull it through. Okay, and then the next stitch, so we're actually working in the top of these trebles from the round before, we're going to do in that V another double crochet. In the top of that stitch, another double crochet. Now we're getting to our first space. So this is our corner space here. We're going to do 3 double crochets, 2 and 3. Cinch them down so you've got plenty of space left. We're going to do a chain of 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now this makes a nice point for our tree. And then in the same corner space we're going to do 3 more doubles, 2 and 3. Now you might think it's a little bit cramped, but when we go to stretch out our trees, these just add a nice point. Now we're getting to this cluster here of 3 from the previous round, and in the top of those stitches we're just going to do double crochet in the top of all of those stitches. When we get to our side space, I'm just going to do 1 double in that side space, and then we move on to our next cluster, and we're just going to put doubles in the top of all of those stitches. Okay, so we're just making it a little bit more sturdy. This shape is going to hold itself better now we've put our border on. We have another side space, so I'm just going to work 1 double, and then in this cluster of 3 I'm going to do a double crochet in the top of each stitch. So we're almost at another corner. Now the corners, I'm going to do 3 doubles, 1, 2 and 3. Now just shuffle them round if you're running out of space. I'm going to do a chain of 3 for the corner. It will become nice and pointy. And then in the same corner space, 3 more doubles, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so this is how it's going to be worked for the rest of this round. So when you come to these clusters, you're going to put 1 double crochet in the top of each stitch. In the side spaces, just do 1 double crochet. In this final corner, you're going to do 3 doubles, a chain of 3, 3 doubles, and I will meet you just here. So I've completed my final corner, and I'm just going to go down this last side with you. So I'm just putting double crochet in the top of those stitches along. When I get to our side space, I can just put 1 double crochet in that side space and then carry on the top of all those trebles from the round before. Okay, and now this is the first double that we started on, but I want to make sure that I remember to put 1 stitch in that final space, and then here where I had my first double crochet, I'm going to do our slip stitch. Okay, now if you watched my channel in the summer, you will have seen that I did do some triangle bunting. Now what you've just done there is the exact technique that I used to make that bunting. So if that's what you wanted to do maybe in the future, I just made lots of these triangles and then I just chained them all together at the top and made some bunting. But what we need to do now is put our tree trunk on, which is like this one here. So I'm going to start by doing a chain up of 1, and then I'm going to turn my work. Okay, now if you look down at the stitches that we have here, I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the next 6 stitches along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so that is the first row of our trunk. I'm going to do a chain 1 up, flip my work, and then I'm going to do another 6 stitches along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So hopefully your trunk should be, if you place that down roughly in the centre of the bottom of your tree. Now you can make these trunks as tall as you like. I tend to do 4 rows. So again, start with a chain 1 up and then turn, and then just work your way along those 6 stitches, just putting in those double crochets. Just remember, if you use US terminology, we're using singles. So I'm going to do 1 more row, chain 1 up, flip my work, and then I'm going to carry on along. So you can make these taller just by adding more rows. That's 4, 5, 1 more. Okay, so I'm just going to do a chain 1 up, cut my yarn, pull it through, and then cinch that knot down as much as you can. And there you go, we have our tree. So all we need to do now is just sew in our ends. So I have just threaded up my darning needle, and then I'm going to turn my work over so that I can sew these in on the back of our tree. So just using these stitches on the back, we're just going to go under, over, just going one way to start with. Okay, so don't pull this bit here too tight, otherwise you'll alter the shape of your trunk. Just leave it reasonably loose. So I go one way, then I go the other way, and then I usually keep it a rule of 3, so I go to and fro 3 times. So go back the other way, just using those stitches. I mean, you don't have to be too overly neat. This will be on the back of your tree, and also as these things aren't washed, the ends shouldn't come out, but I usually like to do it 3 times. So cut your end off, make sure you don't cut your work. And then we have this centre tail. So just give that a bit of a tug, which will close that centre hole up. Now, because I worked over the end once when we started, I just go to and fro a couple of times because that's pretty much in there already. Again, using those stitches on the back. Go one way, turn around, and then just go the other way. Just chop off my end, And there we have it. Now I'm going to take this over and show you how I block them. So I've just taken my tree over to my pressing mat. Now you can do this on an ironing board or an old towel. And I have just stretched out my tree. So you can see now where we had these chains, they make a nice point. And I've put pins in the corner of my trunk and just here. You could put pins all the way around if you want to. Now I'm quite happy with this shape, and what I'm going to do is I've got some spray starch, give it a shake, and then just give that a bit of a coat of starch, and I'm just going to leave that there now to dry, and it'll go reasonably stiff and just hold its shape nicely. If you don't have any starch, don't worry, you could just give it a spray of water. You could also give it a blast of steam with your steam iron. Now this is acrylic yarn, so you mustn't touch the yarn with your iron, otherwise you'll melt it and make a bit of a mess of your iron. Cotton wouldn't be so bad, but I just tend to hover and then just give it a blast of steam and then just let it dry, and then it keeps its shape just nicely. So there you go, there is your finished tree. I think you'll agree they turn out rather cute and they're so simple and easy to make. Now do let me know how you get on with yours, leave your comments down below. If you did like this tutorial, then please do give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you here next time. Bye bye for now.